Century Plyboards is a stock in focus. We know that the real estate ancillary demand has been kind of chalk and cheese, but they also have a new capacity that has come on stream. And lovely to have in Keshav Bhajanka, Executive Director of the company, to talk about how does he pencil in FY25 demand scenario, what kind of capacities have come on stream, and how does that place them in terms of execution. Keshav, great having you. Thanks for taking the time out. And fill us in, Keshav, on the recent developments. I believe there is a capacity that has come on stream, and I believe, or rather, I would love for you to tell us how is the demand scenario looking like currently.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me on the show. You are absolutely correct. A new capacity has come into play, and we actually had trial production earlier this month itself. It is the largest capex in the history of our company, and I think it bodes very well for next year. We have doubled our capacity for MDF, which is medium density fiberboard, from 950 to 1900 cubic meters. And I think this is going to give us a huge growth engine for next year. Currently, we are predominantly a north-based player, having a unit in Hoshiarpur. Post the south unit coming into full production, we shall be a pan-India presence, and that is going to help us substantially.
Could you quantify that substantial? Because for a company to get in its largest capacity on stream would mean that the company had thought through about the demand scenario in most times, and it's coming in at a time when demand might pick up and they might have the ability to be able to service that demand. So now give us the scenario with the newer capacity having come on stream perspective.
No, you're absolutely right. Firstly, let me say that we're extremely bullish about the demand scenario. I know everybody has been talking about a slight slowdown in the short term, but the reason behind this is that after COVID, the takeoff in real estate was fantastic. The quantum of inventory that got depleted, that meant that there was a supply gap in the market. Now with new launches catching up, we believe that the next few years are going to be very good. And this real estate cycle hopefully will last beyond 7-8 years, and it shall give us a lot of impetus. At the same time, certain products in India, such as particle board and medium density fiberboard, are underpenetrated. So already they have substantial tailwinds. Alongside this, the real estate cycle doing well is going to give us further impetus.
Okay. So, okay, let me try and get a sense in a different way, Keshav. For the longest time, you guys were known to clock in that consistent compounded growth rates, which on the revenue front, I'm not even going to bottom line, which may have gotten a bit disturbed, if you will, the last 12 months, let's say. Do you return to the consistency of revenue growth as a result of hopefully better demand, as which you said you are constructive about, and capacities to service that demand? So what's the kind of outlook that you can paint for FY25 from a growth perspective on the revenue front, and then it'll come to the operational metrics?
I think, we will safely be back to the sort of 20% plus compounded growth that you are referring to. And we are fairly confident on the same. Both the demand scenario and the new capacities coming on stream are going to aid in the same. And the objective shall be to outperform that 20%, but definitely we are looking at 20% plus growth.
So now you have the capacity as well, but just one quick thing on the revenue front as well. 20% could be the volume growth. There are question marks, or rather there were some thoughts around some articles around MDF pricing having come off in Q3, and correct us if we are wrong. So what is the current pricing trend, and could that impede the benefits that come out of volume growth in the MDF business?
You're absolutely right. It's a very difficult question, tricky question to answer. But I think that, yes, we are looking at a 20% plus value growth. So I think the volume growth plus the realization, both taken into account, we should grow our revenue by 20% plus.
Oh, okay. So independent of not just MDF, but the other aspects of the business as well, even if there was pricing pressure, you believe volume growth will take care of it?
Yes.
And if pricing behaves better then, Keshav, then you think that 20% can be eclipsed?
I think that we will try and overachieve that 20%. If the macroeconomic scenario favors us, then maybe a little higher than that.
Okay. Okay. Last couple of things, Keshav. One is this whole argument around why the ancillary demand may not have been very strong, and one of the reasons being given was that the old inventory was getting cleared, and now people have gotten the keys to their homes, and now that the interior works would have started, so on and so forth, etc., we will see the demand for ancillary products booming in FY25. There's also this whole argument around how global capability centers have set up shop in a big way, especially in South India, and we'll probably see demand from the commercial space coming up in a big way too. I would love to know if that is the basis of the strength in demand that you are forecasting, or is it something else?
You're absolutely right. That is a big basis for the strength in demand that we are looking at. But alongside that, I think one other element is that there is a move towards more branded players. I think that the unbranded segment has lost traction post-COVID as compared to the branded players. So I think both of these are going to play in our favor, and this is going to lead to an overall positive scenario going forward, not just in the short term, but in the medium to long term as well.
In the medium to long term as well. Okay. Last question. Do you foresee any reason or any need for raising any kind of capital, equity or debt in the near term? Part one. Part two, could operational metrics or margins come under pressure because of rising costs?
No, I don't see any need to raise any equity going forward. Having said that, yes, on a short-term basis, we might have to take on board some debt, which we have provisioned for, because a lot of the capexes, for instance, the Andhra unit or the Chennai unit, will all come into play within a space of 12 months. The short term, there might be some debt that we take on board. In terms of margins, yes, margins for MDF and particle board are likely to remain under slight pressure for maybe a few quarters. But in plywood and laminates, we are going to see consistency.
So overall margins will probably see a slight dip, not a substantial dip.
Yes.
Okay. Fair call. Keshav, lovely having you. Thank you so much for taking the time out and being with us and giving us some idea about your forecast on demand, and talk to you post your results.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's Keshav Bhajanka of CenturyPly talking about, well, hopefully a volume plus value growth combined of at least 20% in FY25 over FY24, and newer capacities that have come on stream which might aid that kind of performance as well. Now, before we take that break, just a quick word on what's moving and what's not. I'm looking at the broader end of the spectrum. So while the markets are up